Good morning from Perth, everyone. It's the US stock portfolio update for the week ending the 21st of May. So I'm making this video a little bit later than I normally would. And if you watched last week's video, I did mention that we were seeing signs of some recovery in tech. Now this week we saw, I guess, what I would describe as some dynamic movements. And we ended, in pre-market last night, probably from about 6:30 to 8, we did see, 13.5 get pressed upon, but, price action was pretty subdued, and then we saw a falling back, and the portfolio was sitting at around 6,000 in the negative. So some interesting data came out. It looks like jobless claims are down a little bit as well, so employment is returning. In regards to the inflation narrative, it looks like asset purchasing was discussed in the FOMC minutes. And then this week we saw some FOMC committee members come out as well, and they, some of them talked about a little more I guess there wasn't urgency, but they just talked about that, as things progress to pre-COVID levels, there's going to be discussions on, when exactly they'll be looking to reduce the asset purchasing as well. We saw bond yields come off a little bit. They tested 1.7% on the 10-year Treasury bond yields. That came back down to around 1.63 to 1.62. And in regards to the portfolio that I have, obviously it's pretty growth focused as well. It's more of a high risk set of stocks here as well. I've got a few ETFs that I still hold. As you can see, PBW TAN, the ARKs, I own ARKK and ARKG. Those are, they've definitely cooled off, and there's been a little bit of stability, but again, what we see is we have one session of, risk on sentiment where people are sort of coming back in, but then it continues with this, range bound volatility that sees, I guess, there's a back and forth going on with the particular data that's released. And I think, honestly, we're going to need more of a sample size to come out to see, what the situation is. And you've got one camp talking about transitory, and then another's making a case for a more sustained inflation situation where it's not just supply restraint issues or constraint issues, weather, semiconductor shortages and whatnot in that regard. So we're seeing a little bit more go on. And I guess it's a matter of, if there is genuine inflation, interest rates are going to come up sooner than expected, but I'm still leaning towards transitory, to be honest, and I'm still holding everything. I've mentioned maybe a reshuffle, but look, honestly, I've been waiting to see if we see a little pickup, and we have. This week, I think I'll bring up the NASDAQ chart just to talk about my thoughts. And this is an Australian stock that I own. Australian markets were a little bit better this week, but it's very hit and miss. You'll have a pretty nice green day, and then, I think this 1 hour time frame sums it up pretty nicely. We are positive on the week though, and that's how it's ended. So we did get below 13,000 on the NASDAQ, and we tested out the high 13.5s, 13.7. Let me have a look at the high there. High was 13.574. So still a ways away from where we were previously in April. We got to that all-time high back to in Feb, but to be honest, I wasn't at the same level of profitability. So we've seen the bigger quality names in regards to, the tech sector get rewarded. Although recently we did see, a significant pullback after it started turning over in late April. So, May hasn't been particularly great But we've got here last week on the 12th, it sort of found some footing and it did bounce. So, because we were looking at more downside potentially. So, this video is just more of a, I guess, just an update on how the portfolio is going. Again, we're back to over 60K. Original position was 66. Low was my initial investment. So we got as high as 79, high, nearly 80,000 back in Feb. And, a few of these positions were January entries. The ARKs were January. The PBW and TAN were December's, and then the rest was previous to that. So, some of these were late stage entries into the bull cycle, but I'm going to continue to hold more updates to come. I've mentioned this with regard to, how we're looking in the future. It's all a bit unclear. I mean, there's very polarized views on that. But if you're holding similar stuff than I am, it's just a matter of patience. And, May's historically not a great month anyway. So we're seeing a little rally, and as we get, more data out in regards to CPI, PMI information, we've got the jobless claims out, the NFP that will come out as well. Let's just see, what wage growth does as well. And then, but I'm still sitting with nothing trimmed, to be honest. So that is the situation, and I'll keep it short and to the point. And that is the situation. Thanks for watching, guys, and bye for now.